So it's the Radio X Evening Show. George Godfrey with you tonight, and we are joined on the show by Nathan and Matthew from Kings of Leon. Guys, how's it going?
Great. Going well. Thanks for having us.
It's great to see you, and great to have you guys back, because of course it's new music. You've got the album When You See Yourself dropping tomorrow, and you've been sat on this for so long. How does it feel to finally get it out there?
I mean, relief, I guess, would be a word I would use. It's the first time you will rarely hear a band complain about having too much time with a record, but we had a lot of time with this record to kind of sit and live with. But for me, it was good because it stood the test of time. Like, I purposely took myself away from it for a while just so I could go back and listen and see if it still had the same effect on me. And yeah, man, it's a banger, as
Absolutely.
You guys would say.
Matthew, how about you, mate?
Yeah, I mean, the same story with me. We took the year like not listening to it, and then we returned to it, and it was luckily it was still good. But we also took time making the music. So like we made the album at home and here in Nashville, and so we didn't really put any like a timeline on making it. So we also took a long time to make it. Yeah. So I mean, we've been living with these songs for a long time, so we're ready for everyone to hear them. Can't wait.
Absolutely. And you said there, like, you took a bit of time away from the music before you came back to listen to it. A lot of the bands that I've spoken to over the past year, because it's been a unique year for releasing music, they felt tempted to go back to tweak certain songs or add new things in. Was that the case with you guys, or was it just like, nah, it's done, let's leave it?
No, we had taken so much time to make it, and like seriously, really thought about every detail, that when it was done, it just had to be done. And I don't think we're the kind of band that could ever I don't think we could go back and change anything unless it was like big, because I don't know, that's just not really our style. But no, there was really we tweaked some like art things towards the end, and finished up little things last year, but we couldn't go back in. No temptations there.
I mean, there was one song I can think of in particular that we took longer on this one song than we probably had 3 songs combined on a previous record.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So time was, like I said, was not something that we needed more of. We have tested the waters of, okay, let's try every single idea we want to on every single song to make sure that this is the record we want to put out there. And that's the good thing about Marcus, our producer, is that's kind of his only main rule is, if you bring up an idea, you have to be prepared to see it all the way out.
Sure.
So don't say, oh, I'll try that, and then, okay. He's like, if you feel strongly enough to speak up for it, then we're actually gonna, play it the way you hear it. And if that works, awesome. If not, no. So we definitely push the boundaries on not being afraid to try every idea that we want on these songs.
There were hours and hours of what if it went this way? What if we did this here? What if we did that there?
Yeah.
So we had tried everything, and we knew what we wanted. So
it sounds pretty strict. So tonight on the show, we're kind of going to see a little bit behind the curtain on the process of that writing, because as I understand it, you were working a lot in the room. You said there that you took it back home to Neon Leon. And tonight we've got some session tracks that you've recorded. We're going to start with the Bandit. How did that song come about? Like, what was the first spark on it?
I think lyrically, it initially was, I think I've heard Caleb say that it was inspired a little by a song called Poncho and Lefty that an artist named Towns Van Zandt covered it. So lyrically, I think that's kind of the direction Caleb took with it. Musically, Matt?
Yeah, musically, it was right. It was like at the end, it was like, we needed a couple more songs, or we at least wanted a couple more options on the record, and so we set up all our stuff, to almost like back to pre-production, and going to try and write some new songs. And I mean, within 5 minutes, that was almost completely finished. I guess we were inspired, and it was really fun. And yeah, it just came together really quickly, and it's just crazy how that works, because then it's the first single and it's doing so well. So.
Guys, we just played the Bandit there, and I read that this is the song that makes you all feel young again. What sort of memories do you associate with that tune?
For me, I can just speak of the feeling I get when I play it, which is there's a very youthful kind of vibe to it. Me selfishly as a drummer, I love playing that beat. It's a fun beat to play. The rhythm section is really, really fun on that song.
I was just gonna say, yeah, you're right. It kind of feels like our earlier stuff, a little bit. I don't know. I think people like when we, I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I think people like when we maybe go for the rock stuff. Try to do the rock stuff a little bit more. So, what did you say? Feel young again? I don't know if that's possible, but yeah, it's definitely when we play it, it feels like I like our younger music.
Well, talking about some of those earlier days, I feel like, on this album, you are continuing to experiment, but you are tapping into that early sound. And I was listening earlier today to Because of the Times, and I feel like with songs like Charmer on there, like that's one of my favorites, and it does feel like you're tapping into that garage rock band almost. But it was the album as well where you did start experimenting with things and became the stadium rock band that we know you as now. 14 years on from that album, I just wanted to know, I guess, how does it feel playing those songs, given the context that you've been through everything that you've been through since?
I mean, it's always great. It's super fun. I mean, and it's it's part of us, and it's what the live show has to have it. And I love it. It's like a part of us. The muscle memory and everything for doing it for so long. It's like an old friend when we get back to those songs. And it's weird because we play the new stuff so much for so long, especially this time with lockdown and everything, that when you play the old stuff, it almost feels new again in a way. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good problem to have, I guess, as a band, when there are heated discussions every night over the set list of course, what songs make it and what songs don't. And then a new record.
Some of them are just too hard, man. They're just too hard for me to play.
Yeah, but then you add a new record to it, then it's like, oh man, that's another 10, 11 songs that are now in the mix that we're going to have to kick something off. But you can usually tell which band members don't like which songs because when a new record and they're like, oh, this one's definitely out. Like no one likes that song anyway.
I did want to ask, is there one song that you just feel will never ever leave the set list?
You could name two right now.
Well, maybe not necessarily, like those big hitters like You Somebody, like Sex on Fire, but ones that just have that special meaning for you.
Matt, it's tough because we all, have our different songs that we think that we think are the ones that should never leave the set and that we should play every night. One of them for me is Arizona. I feel like we should never not play Arizona, but other guys in the band feel that we could leave that one out some nights, and I'm like, it should be a staple.
I would say Four Kicks. I can play that every night and be happy with that. Milk, I think, is another one that should be in the set list every night. But yeah, I mean, I'm in my 40s now. It's going to be hard to remember any of this stuff. I'm going to need teleprompters everywhere, set list taped to my drum head. Like it's
40's young, Nate. You look great.
Well, you've treated us to one of those older tunes now, and it's one of my favorites that I think should never leave the set list. You did Black Thumbnail for us, so let's hear that in session. This is Kings of Leon live on the Radio X Evening Show. It's George Godfrey with you. This is the Radio X Evening Show. It's Kings of Leon Eve tonight. We've got Matthew, we've got Nathan on the show. Guys, how you doing?
Wonderful. Yeah, great.
So it's been...
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
So it's been so good hearing these new songs live, and of course hearing some of the older tunes. And later tonight we are going to be revisiting a gig that you played at Hyde Park in 2017. And for me, I was there. It was a great day. I remember the baking sun. I just remember having the time of my life. What are your memories with that show?
Oh my gosh. I would say it's probably one of the most scared I've ever been for a show, I would say. And that was just because the people never ended. I made the horrible mistake of going out and watching some of the bands before us, and I was like, okay, I'm glad I get to take my glasses off because everything kind of blurs, but I made the mistake of looking at the crowd with my glasses on for the other bands, and I remember just being so scared to death. But then that moment in that show in particular, where I took my first okay, this is a moment, this is a memory that we may never get to make again. So I remember kind of letting go and I'm just going to let the show be whatever it's going to be. And what a great night. I mean, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I too was terrified. I was terrified. I mean, people always ask, like, do you still get nervous or is it still exciting? And it's crazy. It never changes. I'm still a nervous wreck for 5 to 10 minutes before. And then as soon as we get on stage after the first few songs, I just kind of like settle down and it feels great. And it was the same thing as like Nathan was saying. We got on and just, it started and it was going and it was like, yeah, this is fantastic. Can't wait to be back there again one day.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I mean, it's a long walk to the back of that crowd on Hyde Park. It doesn't get much bigger, to be honest, when you do play here. I did want to ask quickly because you've always had this strong relationship with the UK audience. We've always loved you from the early days, and I wanted to ask if you remember the first time that you came and played here. Where was it? How was the show? How was that experience? I guess
we remember
our first show ever was at the White Horse in High Wycombe.
Okay,
and I remember getting there and we could not get to our dressing room because the girls were finishing up their last lap dances. And we were like, well, lap dance, what do you mean? Like, they're like, oh, it's kind of like a gentleman's club by day and then a pub by night type thing. So for our first show ever, we're like, rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Here we go, baby. Let's go. But I remember playing that show and they fit so many people in this tiny little place. And there was a guy after the show, obviously double pinted. I mean, one in each hand. And I remember him coming up to us and being like, you guys are going to be one of the biggest bands in the world ever. Like, you're just going to be trust me, you're going to be one of the biggest bands. And it's our first show ever over there. So like, these people are really nice. Like, what a kind thing for this guy to say to us. But I think I've met 10,000 people that were in that 100-person show, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. I do remember that guy, and I think what he said, I think, and I could be misremembering, but
Led Zeppelin.
I think he said you're better than the Stones. And I just remember thinking, but we only have 3 songs. How can you tell? Like, how can you tell we have 3 tunes? Like maybe like 5. We play them, and it's like, anyway, it's a huge compliment. He had 2 beers, but yeah.
So can I ask?
He was wrong.
Was he on your mind when you wrote Fans?
I don't know if that guy
not in
particular, but I would say fans from England, obviously.
Yeah,
we're definitely
in the UK. Yeah,
for that for sure.
Matthew,
nice.
Nathan, thanks so much for coming on.
Radio X.